welcome to our first episode of the Final Take. It's a pretty big start. We've been wanting to do this for a while, and now we're here. Now we're here doing it. And today's episode, we want to talk about Creed 2 and also Sylvester Stallone posting an Instagram video saying he's done with Rocky. And I'm over here with my good friend Gons.
How's it going, guys?
So, what was your take on Creed 2 before we get into Sylvester Stallone's part?
Uh, I guess a quick synopsis overall. I mean, I thought it was a good movie. Not as good as the first intro movie, if you will, as the other one. But I thought it was like a really good, solid piece. Um, there were some faults with it, of course, just like any other thing. But I thought it was good overall. What about you?
So I felt the same way with this film, the way you feel right now. The first one definitely felt like I was like it was just the camera angles. Um, you know, there was like no editing on one fight. It was just all one scene, and I just felt like I was really in the fight. And even one point when Adonis like laid a right hand on an opponent, I was like jumping up like yeah, and it just felt like I was really into the fight. With the second one, I didn't really get to feel that. I wasn't really feeling that much. But overall, I did like the movie. I liked the direction that they were heading in, uh, especially with adding new characters with Drago, and Drago's son Victor, and I like the way they're going with it, and you know I don't I don't think it's going to end up being. I believe the Rocky films were six.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Six.
Six, yeah. I don't think Creed would probably go to six. Maybe it depends on who they add, but I mean, I would love for it to go to six the way it keeps going. But overall, I'm just really happy with the way the direction's going. Um, Other than that, dude, I really enjoyed it. What's your take on the fight scenes?
So as far as I guess if you're to put them side by side with the first one, you're right. The shots were a lot more compelling, a lot more exciting. They definitely grabbed your attention because they were different from what Rocky traditionally liked to portray. So this one, they were not so much like just back and forth, back and forth. So it was certainly it started to kind of go back to that though in the second one. That's the only issue I had as far as the fight scenes, but they were still very engaging. Um, Definitely, you could kind of feel most of the time that the hits were actual hits. There were, of course, a couple scenes where it wasn't. I was not sold, but overall, the fight scenes I thought were pretty excellent.
Yeah, I definitely thought the boxing, the matches were good. Actually, I want to go back to when Adonis, when Creed first told him like, hey, I don't want you to fight Victor. He's another man. He's he's a different breed. He was built on hate, and for the first fight, he didn't have Rocky in the corner, and we were talking about this on the way home, that Victor Drago compared to Adonis, you're talking about like a huge size difference. Like if this was the real
Couple
world,
weight classes at least, maybe
definitely,
three.
definitely, because Victor was just he was rock solid. He looked like he was easily pushing heavyweight, and Adonis was pushing like middleweight. But yeah, he was. It definitely showed like a huge size difference, and it showed in the first fight between Victor and Adonis that you know Adonis got tossed around. He got messed around. He was probably expecting to die. The same thing his father did when he faced Drago. So uh, in that fight, I thought that was probably true. And then the second fight, they fought. Rocky was in the corner, and it was like when you're seeing like your favorite fighters, like when they fight the first time, and you're like waiting for that first fight, and then they fight, and they end up in a draw. Let's go back to Canelo and Triple G, where let alone I kind of think Triple G won the first fight. Uh, but that was a really good fight, and everyone's like, I want another one. I want another one. And of course, that you're just going back to uh, the second fight where you just got that heartwarming because you have a lot of Canelo fans thinking that they um, are finally our golden boy won because it ended up in a draw the first fight. So I just felt that it was just a warming fight, and the better man won that fight. The actually the person with the biggest heart really won that fight.
You're right. One thing I did like about the Victor character is he's definitely a stark difference from his father. I'm kind of glad they didn't really infuse very much of his father's personality in the character Victor, because that would have been a little off putting. I mean, everyone likes to say, if he dies, he dies, but I just didn't want that for his son. And even Ivan Drago himself, he was definitely not quite the same character he was in Rocky 4. So that was kind of cool to kind of demonstrate that history he had has a dramatic effect on him. Even though he said it, I mean, it kind of in his tone and how he talks to people, I thought that was really cool.
Now, I think we touched bases on Creed 2. Now let's talk about Sylvester Stallone. Putting up that Instagram video. I would like to start off first on that one because, uh, what he said, it was like, I'm done playing the character. I think I gave it all I have, and I think the Rocky story needs to end, and I think this is the perfect time it needs to end. And I believe it is absolutely right. He looks extremely old in these movies. He looks like he just wants to sit in the back of the camera and doesn't want to act anymore. But I'm sure there'll be the last time we see him on the big screen. But he's absolutely right. It's time for Michael B. Jordan to continue on with Adonis and just tell his story, tell his side of the story instead of like Rocky's full circle, because now he felt bad what happened to his father, and he felt like he needed to train Adonis, and now it just went full circle, and I feel like Rocky did everything he could, and I feel that story is over with, and I think it's excellent that he's hanging up the Rocky, the character Rocky, and continuing on with Adonis and telling his story, and I think that's the right move in the right time.
Right, and just like any major student teacher relationship or what have you, at some point the student has to break away from the teacher or the coach from the player and grow and just become their own coach or own teacher later on in life, because in reality you can only stay with that so long. You can only learn from so much before you end up learning more on your own. So um, I kind of like it. It was a little dramatic perhaps, but I definitely respect his decision. Done a lot for the movie industry by having the Rocky series. Whether all the movies are hits or not, his character's definitely memorable, fantastic, and for sure, you still have lines today from back when the first Rocky movies came out, still being said in everyday conversation.
And I think the main thing was for him was like you don't want to. He ran his course, and you don't want to overstep. You don't want to keep going until it's like completely dead, and everyone's just, dude, you got to get out of there. And I think he left. That's why I'm saying he left at a good time where he just, he gave it all he could, and there's nothing more to tell about Rocky.
It's definitely some high notes for sure, and and you're right. It's definitely not about Rocky so much in Creed anymore. He's there. He's obviously an important player, but it's ultimately the movie's titled Creed and Creed 2, not Rocky. So it's certainly justified in that sense as well why he's stepping down.
So, anyways, thank you guys for our first episode of the Final Take. Uh, you know, after more and more we'll do, we'll get more and more advanced. We'll add more music, add more excitement to it, and please let us know what you guys think about it. And what's your final take on Creed and Sylvester Stallone's departure from Rocky? All right, guys. Well, you guys have a good one. I'm here with my good friend again, the Gons, and you guys have a good night.
You take care, guys. We'll see you next time.